the process, man. Joel Embiid, the MVP, the reigning MVP, having an even better year so far. I mean, statistically across the board, career highs just about everywhere. What's been the most impressive thing to you? What sticks out the most when you watch Embiid just dominate these games night in and night out?
Yeah, I mean, the last game, it's who he did it against. Rudy Gobert,
Yeah,
Karl
yeah.
Anthony Towns, Naz Reid, best defense in the NBA. And it's getting to the foul line, right? Which is a skill, and you can blame the officials if you want. But it's getting to the foul line and then hitting at a high level. And I was talking about this the other day. Now, granted, he's a better jump shooter than Shaquille O'Neal, but let's just imagine that you couldn't foul Shaquille O'Neal, because if you fouled Shaquille O'Neal, he was going to shoot 90% from the free throw line.
Yeah.
Embiid shooting 89% from the free throw line this year. Okay. So all the extra points that Shaq left on the table because he couldn't knock down a free throw, Embiid's cleaning up on all those points. So he gets those points that Shaq was leaving on the table because you fouled this guy. He's going to knock down his free throws at a high level. Now, again, I'll say this. I would vote for him today for the MVP, and I don't like talking MVP until around February, but I would vote for him. But the other aspect of this is, what's he going to do in the postseason? Because it's almost like his former teammate in James Harden. Okay, James, we know you can go out and get us 40 points anytime you want in a regular season game. But what separates, the Hardens from the Magics and the Jordans and the Birds and the Kobe's, those guys do it in April, May, and June.
LP.
Harden does not. So Embiid's got to be able to do that in the postseason, because we talk about how dominant of a scorer he is. And I hear people say, well, he's the most dominant scoring center since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Okay, until recently was the all-time leading scorer. But do you know who averages more points than him in the postseason? Nikola Jokic, who's viewed as a pass-first center. Okay, not even a guy that score. He averages more points than Embiid in the postseason. So Embiid's got to figure it. So one guy's raising his game and doing what's necessary and beating the other guy at what he's best at. Okay, when it's not even Jokic's main skill set, his main skill set's getting his teammates involved, making them better. So Embiid has to be able to do it in April, May, or June, or I don't want to hear about it right now.
What he's doing is just historic. I mean, third season in a row right now. If it were to end today, third year in a row where he's leading the league in points average per game. Just insane. But I think the thing that Embiid's doing this year that's really impressive to me, guys, is that his assist numbers are around 6 assists per game. I mean, in the past, this is a guy who's not known for really moving the ball around. And I think Nick Nurse, especially with Tyrese Maxey, has really opened up his game for him. And with Nick Nurse asking for more ball movement, I mean, even heard at the beginning of this year how Embiid said, he wasn't too fond of just a lot of isolation play last year. That's kind of the thing that you see with Doc Rivers when he's a head coach. I just like how Embiid's playing this year. I know it's always going to come back down to, can he perform in the playoffs and stuff like that. And I think there's something about this year where I'm a little bit more confident that they can, even though it's addition by subtraction because they don't have James Harden, with the emergence of Tyrese Maxey this year, I think they could get back to the second round. But I think even if they lost the second round, would be much different than what they did last year. And I think with Maxey's help, especially with Tobias Harris playing a good level, you now got Oubre back. I like how the team's playing this year. I'm pretty confident this season, just because when I look at Embiid, his game is just involved this year. I think it's much different than it's been years past. So I'm a little more confident that he can actually show up this postseason.
No doubt about it. And I think it's for a myriad of reasons. One, it's because of Nick Nurse and the way that he's running the offense, and they've turned him into more of a facilitator, which is amazing because he's averaging a career high in points. And then the other aspect of it is just like, and this is where, again, the knock on Harden, where Maury's going, oh, he's the greatest offensive player of all time. No, the greatest offensive players of all time make their teammates better. Jokic, one of the great offensive players of all time, makes his teammates better. Curry, one of the greatest offensive players of all time, makes his teammates better. Harden's taken away from his teammates. So it's no Harden. It's no Ben Simmons. You get Embiid with the ball more, Embiid moving it more. Maxey fits in perfectly. There's a lot more cutting to the hole, a lot more movement of the offense. So 100% that the style that they play this year is much more conducive towards postseason success.
Where do you think Morey is from a acquisition standpoint to try to solidify themselves in the East? Do you think he'll be, jumping at the gun in terms of a deadline acquisition, or do you see them kind of riding this out and seeing what happens in the offseason?
I mean, knowing his personality, he's probably going to go out and try and do something, and probably big. Here's how I would rank what I think they should do. One is, add some depth, add some, guys that can maybe guard on the perimeter, maybe get a guy like Alex Caruso also doesn't need the basketball, but can guard some of the better
Yeah,
players. You want to add like
that'd
an
be good.
OG Anunoby, you can pull that off.
That'd be
That's about
good.
as
Yeah.
big as a name as I would get. He's a guy that could guard the Tatums and the Jalen Browns. He's the guys that could guard the Jimmy Butlers. But so I would do that first, that type of player first. Second, I would stand pat, not do anything. And my third option, and this is the one that I would not do, and I would be disappointed if they did if I was a Philadelphia fan. Now, maybe the idiot fan goes out there and they say, oh, that's a big name. I like it. But do not go out there and get a guy like Zach LaVine or a
I agree.
guy that's going to come in and be like, all right, when am I getting my shots? Somebody that could maybe think that they're a number 2 option to Embiid, and then mess up the flow with Tyrese Maxey, because I think they have a clear-cut hierarchy right now. It's Embiid 1, it's Maxey 2, there's a gap. It's Tobias Harris, who now feels a lot better about being able to contribute, even though he only took 3 shots a couple of nights ago in a bad loss to Chicago. Like, people know their roles right now, and I think if you took a big name, put him in there, even though he might be a very talented player, I think you could screw that up, and you don't want that.